I will say that while prayer is necessary, life is like a pendulum in the grandfather clock. There should be principles and then the prayer. Principles and the prayer. So if you put it only on prayer, where are the principles that make nations run? One of the biggest challenge of Nigeria is not just leadership, it's a system failure. And that system failure, even if you have, who shall we call to come and be president if we are not satisfied with our president? If you have the best of the best of the best presidents in the world and your system is broken, you are in trouble. It's like flying with the best pilot on earth, but the plane is leaking oil and petrol and the engine is shaking. That is Nigeria.
And so who's going to fix this system?
We have not even started. That is the challenge. As I've lived in the United Kingdom for 40 years, every time I come to Nigeria, that's just my conclusion, that we are so monocular in focusing only on who is the leader, what is the president doing, but we are not corporately, jointly arguing to see that the system is fixed. And the system is broken from one level to the other. I mean, just drive on the road. The Okada man thinks he doesn't even know from what side he should overtake. That's how broken the system is. 90% of drivers don't even know from what angle should you overtake. That's just a microcosm of my illustration of a broken system. People just don't know.
I recall that someone spoke to me sometimes that if you want to know how disorganized a nation is, watch how they drive on their streets. You agree?
Sometimes you find that when people come from abroad or something, they are shaken because some things you just thought it could just not have happened. How can this? And I mean, yesterday as we were driving here in Ibadan, a guy was reversing on a very major road and others were honking as they were passing him by, and he threw his two hands in the air like, what have I done?
What is happening?
I held my head.
Okay. All right. So and by going into the conversation,
yes.
I'd like you to tell me, do you hear the cry on the street about hunger in Nigeria?
Well, I might shock you to say that I'm 72. And
I know. Because I even watched a video where you talked about how you kept fit at 70.
Okay.
That you don't eat rice.
I don't eat rice, I don't eat yam, I don't eat
so I know.
Well, let's not go through that.
I know that.
Don't spoil the day.
Yeah, so
somebody who has some serious amalangbeki in front of them, anybody, you know what I'm saying?
But do you hear people cry about hunger?
In the 72 years that I've lived on earth as a Nigerian, I've never seen it this bad. That's the honest truth. And we have to face that truth. I'm friends with some people in the corridors of power, and this is not a picking on a person. It is, the truth has to be said. So Nigeria has not had it this bad. Things are so, I mean, it's the first time I've seen people, whether high and mighty, complain. Even the rich crying. I mean, the SUV I drive in Nigeria, you fill it with 15,000, 17,000. Some time ago, and now it is 89,000. So the gap is just, you will have to say ouch. Unless you
feel the pinch.
Unless you didn't work for the money, you know. If you worked for the money, you will have to say ouch. You know.
So the cry is not just for the poor.
Everyone is crying. That's the honest truth. Unless you want to bury your head in the sand and pretend that nothing is happening. That's the truth.
So this is Love 2024. What inspired it?
Well, I've been in ministry 50 years. My desire have always been to do evangelism, but I've been as a pastor for the past 50 years. Some time ago, I went to preach in Ghana, and the people for whom I spoke, they put me in this room. We call it green room, where they entertain you. And every time I went to speak for them every year, they would play videos of their crusades. And I wouldn't even watch. I was too tired. But one year, I looked, and it was exactly what I'd always wanted to do.
I'd
always felt that My calling, I believe, was to be an evangelist, to reach people, go to the street, hold crusades, get people saved. But I wanted it with a difference. I didn't want to criticize the gentlemen who came from abroad and held huge meetings. And the people came from 5 hours and they had to go back with nothing in their hand apart from salvation. I always felt Africa needed touched on the spirit, soul, and body level. That's what I never shared it with anyone until I saw the videos in Ghana. And I thought, man, this is what I'd always wanted to do. And you would not believe it. I began to leave the comforts of London and followed these guys every year for 8 years to the smallest villages of Ghana to see them hold this crusade in the rural world. And I'll see that they will take a hospital and perform surgery there. They will hold night meetings, the very miracles, healings we've always believed as charismatics, Pentecostals. But daytime, they will distribute food on a level you have never imagined. In fact, I remember one year I was one who stood there and was putting rice in people's hands, 5,000 people. I thought,
how did you feel doing that?
I felt, this is what I want to do. This is what we should be doing. So I followed them for 8 years. So every corner, northern Ghana, south, east, west, the smallest villages that are not on the map of Ghana.
Touching lives.
Yes, it was so impactful. I decided I'll study them for 8 years. They were calling me their senior evangelist. I said, no, I am your senior student. Okay. They couldn't believe it. In fact, some of my key friends in Ghana couldn't understand why I would leave the United Kingdom to follow these guys to places where the hotel is not even 1 star. It is no star.
No star.
No star. No star hotels. It's a lifestyle I was no longer used to. But I followed them. I wanted to understand. I didn't want to do it wrong. It's just my own style. I like to do things well.
So you stooped to learn.
I stooped. Yeah, I followed them. And then I took people from England to follow me, to take notes for us to prepare our own policy manuals for doing it right.
So last year you were in Ikorodu.
So having finished all this, my apprenticeship, so to say, I began to pray. These guys were pressurizing me. Hey, you know the way they would say, Pastor, when are we going to start in Nigeria? And I say, hey, bro, Nigeria is not Ghana. Whatever you're doing in Ghana, marks it 10 times. Because Ghanaians may be docile in waiting to receive whatever you give the Nigerians. If you don't give them at a time, somebody can tear shit on you. So I prayed another 3 years. And then suddenly...
For this vision?
Yes, to know where to go. Because for 13 years, I was giving widows things in Oshun, my hometown.
Okay.
In fact, COVID year, the last of my 13 years, I gave 23,000 widows. And I just felt that had come to an end. I wasn't to continue. But one day, standing on the balcony of my house, I have a small house in Lekki facing the lagoon. And one day, standing on the balcony of my house, I felt God was saying, Sokoto, Sokoto. What you're looking for is right beside you. Look to your right. And as I look to my right, from my balcony, I can see the roofs of Ikorodu. And it was so surreal because that was where I went to seminary. So it was like God is saying, where you went to seminary, go there and hold it. And boy,